Hello everyone, my name is Hyde Seybold, also known as the Deputation, SCVR R66, and the 66 Beatles. A lot of people, well, I actually just got a question the other day from a friend of mine asking me how I got started in this entire hobby, really. And there's really no simple way to put that without a whole long story, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about. And it basically goes back all the way to before I was born. My dad loved trains. He had Tyco trains as a kid in the 70s, and when my brother was born in 1993, they immediately jumped on railroading and trains, and that's basically where model trains got started in our family, really well, and at least in my generation, of course. And with me, it just kept going. I remember my earliest memories. My second birthday was here in this garage with a really small 4x4 circle layout, and I had my birthday cake and everything, and it was just a blast. I would watch my brother run the trains, who at that time was only 6 years old. So, to start at that young of age, a lot of elderly people will say it's kind of ridiculous. You really shouldn't trust a lot of little kids with trains. And I would agree, but I guess my parents saw something in us that others really didn't. And it's just been such a fun hobby because there's almost no limit to what you can do. You can make it as real as you want. You can make it exactly the way you want. And with me, I don't model any type of prototype or time period or road name. 'Cause to me, that really limits what you can buy and limits the amount of fun and basically just limits everything that you can do. Because if you stick to one road name, you're sticking to that type of engine that they build in their prototype. If you're sticking to one time period, you're sticking to how everything looked in the type of engines that they ran at that time. And the way I model is a tourist railroad. Of course, it's not at all realistic, having 16 plus operational steam locomotives and about 10 operational diesel locomotives and countless shops and roundhouses and a turntable. Um, but back to basically where I got started, it's we had we live in Santa Clarita, California, and it was originally established as the Southern Pacific line, and now it's Union Pacific, of course, because Southern Pacific is no longer around. We would always watch trains. We'd take the Metrolink train down to the Taylor Yard, which is where the Metrolink houses its trains, its yard, and there used to be an old SP, UP diesel servicing facility there, and we'd always go see that, and we have old pictures and stuff, and now it's torn down. But yeah, I mean, it's just never stopped with us. We'd always go to places that had anything to do with trains. Nowadays, whatever vacation I'm going, I'm always looking up hobby stores to try to see if I can expand my collection at any time. And even though my brother is off in his own apartment and he's at college, and I'm still in high school, um, it still it's vastly growing. This hobby, now we have a new layout, and we're talking more about that. And with me, it just keeps going. I'm getting smarter and smarter with this hobby, and I'm learning new things along the way. I'm applying my own tricks to it as well, and it's basically just been a thing in the blood. And the question was to me by my friend, when did I start rebuilding steam locomotives? That started in about 2007 when my dad gave me his collection of steam locomotives. Well, his entire collection of HO trains, which is mainly Tyco, AHM, Montua, which is the same thing basically. The Tyco Montua is the same thing, but Tyco, AHM, that was basically the major road names at that time. And there were about 3 steam locomotives in that collection, all of which did not run. In about a month, I got one of them running, which is an old Tyco 080 Power Torque tender-driven steam locomotive. I still have it, but the power torque blew out, and now I just use the locomotive as a dummy. I can build a new power torque assembly for it, but it's not really worth it nowadays because I've got such many other projects to work on. That's just not really I'm not able to put time away for that. The second locomotive, which was the favorite one out of it, was an old Montua 1970s Montua 040 shifter, formerly Santa Fe number 99, I would believe. It was in deplorable shape, deplorable. There's actually a photo next to me of after it was disassembled in 2010. You probably can't even see that, but it did not have a smoke box door. It didn't have a cab. Didn't have a drawbar. Didn't have a tender coupler pocket or tender couplers. Missing the tender steps. Had a bend in the pilot beam, or one of the steps in the pilot beam. motor was worn out, paint chips everywhere, wheels were out of quarter, list goes on and on and on. And it took 5 years to rebuild that steam locomotive because in 2010, I mean, sorry, 2007, when I got the collection, I was, around, I think 9 years old. So that time I didn't have really any experience in how to rebuild locomotives, but I always had a drive to take apart engines and just fix them, get them working again. And I've always found more enjoyment doing that rather than actually running the trains. My brother's kind of the opposite of me. He likes running the trains. I like fixing them. So that actually kind of works very well, corresponds very well. And the reason I like repairing engines is just because it's all about the journey to me. You know, seeing an engine in deplorable shape, you start off with a photograph of an engine in deplorable shape, and then each repair you photograph, you just keep going on, and then you look back at it and you go, wow, you know, to think that it came from being that to what it is now is truly amazing. And back to the 040 shipper thing, I still have the original engine. I have all my dad's engines that he gave me in that collection, and all of them, just about all of them, are running because I've so much knowledge and so much care and all this equipment and tools on how to keep these old things running. And people are sending me the locomotives now because I have my own official repair site. Uh, it's called the Seybold Locomotive Works. We have a website. I can link you to that. Uh, I mainly repair older locomotives because they're more fun, they're simpler. I don't run DCC or sound because to me it's just a bunch of useless crap to me. You know, you can pardon my language there. You know, if you use DCC, that's fine. I just choose not to because you pay up to $250 to $300 more for the same engine but you're just adding sound and the ability to run it with other engines. And with this layout, I could run. You can run two trains side by side on one transformer controller because the loops are connected, but you can just have them switch going straight, so they just keep going around. But you also have a separately controlled inner shop area, which means I can control all the locomotives in the shop separately from that of the main line. I do that because there's an old fried switch that I haven't bothered to change, but it's actually worked out my advantage because I can keep locomotives in the shop area, and the roundhouse and terminal tracks are on their own separate power as well. So you're basically running DCC without having it. The way you do that is multiple controllers and transformers. People don't like that. People like it much simpler. But to me, this is easy because there's no point in having this layout is a 5.5 by 9.5 feet, and there's no point in having DCC on a small layout like this because I only have around 6 engines that are DCC, and I didn't even get those by choice. It's because that engine that I wanted was only made in DCC. So that's basically why I have that. And the reason I don't convert to DCC is because a lot of DCC systems, you can run DC engines on DCC systems. On certain systems you can do that, but after long extensive periods of use, when a DC engine is on DCC power for a long period of time, the motors burn out. And I have so many prized engines to me that I can't afford to have that happen. I can rebuild them, sure, but that's not what I really want. I don't want to have to rebuild my entire fleet. So that's basically why I don't run DCC or sound. No point, you know, when I'm older, have my own house, you know, hopefully maybe a basement layout or something, I would love to have DCC, obviously because it's a smarter thing to do in the future. But right now, no need. I have so much fun with this layout. Now, keep drifting away, but back to the main question. The reason that Monto 040 ship through that belonged to my dad really started my whole idea of restoring locomotives was because I just had such a drive to do it. And in 2011 and 2010, because there was multiple problems that happened to the locomotive, I had so many setbacks, I never thought it'd ever get done. And then when I look back on it now, I think, wow, you know, just to think that it came from that far, just the feeling of bringing an old engine back to me is really worth it. And just seeing it run down the tracks. I mean, to me, that's the only time I ever like to really run trains is when after I finish restoring the locomotive, just to see it run and just watch my work run free. To me, that is probably the most fun part about doing this entire thing. And the reason I repair engines for other people is because there's people who don't have the time and don't have the knowledge or the space or the equipment. But see, the main thing you need to restore, you know, HL steam locomotives is equipment, like all the tools to do it, and the knowledge. You know, it doesn't cost a whole lot. Model railroading isn't that expensive of a hobby with DC engines, so it's not very expensive to rebuild one. In fact, I really don't even charge except for parts that are needed, because I can machine actually a lot of new parts. I've been able to machine new screws, new footboards, cow catchers, you name it. You know, uh, it's just a lot of fun to rebuild an engine. You know, and for those people who don't know how to do it, I'm more than happy to help you see that engine run again. And I'm really good at taking old basket case locomotives, bringing them back to something that they never were. So that to me is a real pride and joy of this entire thing. Another engine that my dad had was a River Rossi, 1974 River Rossi 080 Indiana Harbor Boat Switcher. And that locomotive was probably even in worse shape. All the running gear was torn apart and just deplorable. The steps on the front were broken off from the pilot beam. The tender was missing its footboards. Motor wires were cut. The boiler was missing. The boiler was missing the smoke box, and I eventually sold the boiler on eBay years ago because I never thought I'd ever rebuild a locomotive. And now I am, because I have all this knowledge and such a drive to rebuild locomotives. So I brought it to the Seybold Locomotive Works shop, where it's been undergoing restoration for about 2 months now. The frame is almost done. I'm having a new pilot beam being machined by a friend of mine, a new brass one. It'll be applied as soon as it comes back. I did all the repairs on the wheels. I'm actually going to be getting a new third gear wheel because the old one had a big hole in it. And that's one thing I can't repair, is a giant hole in the wheel. I built a new footboard for the tender, back footboard beam. I also cleaned the wheels on it. Cleaned all the rods, and I'm starting to reassemble. It's slowly starting to come back together. I got the motor all tested and lubed up, working great. Now I'm going to be making new wires for it, and it should be running by next year if everything goes well. I'm having the same buddy of mine who's making the brass pilot beam also has a boiler for it, which I'll be acquiring off him as part of a huge trade deal we have going on, and that's where the boiler will come from. So that engine will live to run again. It won't take 5 years like the other engine, you know. Because if I had that Montour 040 shifter now, it would only take me 2 to 3 months. And why it took me 5 years is because I was a little kid then. I didn't have any knowledge on how to rebuild steam locomotives. And now, you know, the drive I have is just overwhelming. And you know, I've got a ever-growing collection behind me. My collection consists of about over 100 locomotives, and the SCVR is different from that collection. The SCVR is a collection of about 30 locomotives, which is different from that. The locomotives in the SCVR are my favorites, and I wanted to keep them separately. The Seybold Locomotive Works locomotives are also ones separately, but those are my private projects. See, because when I acquire a locomotive for the SCVR, it is rebuilt and operated for the SCVR, my tourist route. But for the Seybold Locomotive Works, like my private locomotives, which I have about 3 now, actually 4, they are going to be rebuilt and running, but they will run on special occasion service and special events for the SCVR tourist excursion railroad. The locomotives and all that behind me operate on a different schedule that corresponds with this, with the SCVR. And this line isn't even done yet. It just needs ballast, but pretty close to being done, you know. And yeah, you know, I hope I've described basically all that, the history behind, you know, my road and why I'm into this, you know, because to me, it's just so much fun to work on it, and like I said, I have more fun working on an engine than I do running it. People think that's crazy, but I'd rather buy an engine off eBay that's not running, and rather than one that's already running, because I don't find any fun in that, you know, to me. You know, I'm always working on engines. There's a huge list of engines I have to work on, but there's about 8 or 9 engines that I'm actively working on, as well as an ever-growing rolling stock fleet. And the layout is taking majority of my time right now, and once it's done, I will go back to the work on the engines and everything else. But you know, just applying, you know, me only being 15 years old, you know, I think it's quite astounding personally to see what I can do. I can do stuff that people twice and 3 times my age probably can't do. You know, but I'm always very friendly and willing to help out. You know, if you got a question on your locomotive, or if you want to send it to me for repairs, you can work that out. You just got to visit my repair site. And you know, I'm never going to grow out of this hobby. There's no doubt about that. I mean, when I'm older, I'm going to be taking all these trains with me to a new house or an apartment, you know, wherever life takes me. I just want my trains with me. You know, I'll never be too old to grow out of the trains. because it's just an ever-growing hobby. It's never-ending. There's always going to be new advancements in technology, and not really looking forward to where DCC is going to be heading, but there's always going to be old locomotives for sale on eBay, and that's where you'll find me looking for them. Yeah, a lot of times I'm in the garage, and a lot of times I don't even do anything. I just like to sit there and look at it. I don't care if that's weird. I just like to sit and look at it and just admire my work. Sure, I'm sure a lot of people can do better work than I can, but this just makes me happy enough, and it seems to make a lot of other people happy. That's why I continue to update my website and various other things like YouTube, like here. But yeah, I mean, this has been in the family for years, and I hope to keep passing it on as far as I can. My brother and I are always a working team. Whenever he's here, I'm the one who works and builds the railroad. He's the one that operates it, but I'm just the one that basically just keeps all these trains running for him, so he can enjoy and I can enjoy for future generations. And I hope you guys all out there are enjoying the work I do. And thank you for your continued support, because personally, this is enough for me to keep going. I keep myself going with a lot of the work that I do, but it's also very nice to hear the types of things that you people have to say, and all the very nice comments about what I've done on the layout and locomotives. And if people enjoy my work that I repair on locomotives, then they'll like the repair work that I do on their locomotives in the future. And it's just so much fun. I couldn't explain it. It's just hard to explain. But yeah, I thank you guys all very much for taking the time to watch this, and you can learn the history about why I do all this. And I thank you very much for your continued support. And you guys can keep checking out my updates, and more locomotives to come in the future, that's for sure. So I'm glad hope you guys enjoyed this video I made. So thank you guys all for watching, your continued support. Thank you very much.